Welcome, Wrestle Buddies, to a brand new series that I'm bringing to you. This is going to be a series of episodes, I guess you could say, where I will sit down and interview each member of the Wrestle Buddy team individually. We have aptly named this Meet the Wrestle Buddies. And today, we're going to start off with a great person and a great friend of mine. Nick, how are we doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, mate. It's a breezy Sunday evening here in little old England. It's not too cold and it's not raining, so any day it's not raining over here, it's a good day.
Yeah, you guys do get quite a bit of rain over there, I hear.
Oh, all the time. And I live on the coast, so...
Oh, okay, so you get it all the time.
Yeah, it's non-stop. We're right by the Irish Sea, so it's just constant rain all the time. But...
Dude, I've never been coastside. I think I've been coastside maybe once.
Because you're in the middle, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm dead center.
The landlocked man. The most water you ever see is a lake. So
yeah, I've seen lakes, I've seen rivers, ponds, no ocean. Never seen the ocean.
That's quite depressing, man.
At
some point, you need to make a trip to the coast. Everyone should at least see the ocean.
I plan on flying out of country at least some point, maybe this year or next.
No, I've never left England. Well, I lived in Australia when I was a kid, and then we moved back here, and I've never been anywhere since.
Well then, that's actually, I think, a great starting point for this getting to know you interview. Hey, Ben.
Hey, Ben.
Yeah, I think that's actually going to be a great starting point.
Okay.
We're going to start off like age. How old are we, Nick?
I am now 39 as of 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, you just had a birthday not too long ago.
Just getting on now. The hairs are getting grayer.
So you said you grew up in Australia. What was it like growing up out there?
Hot, awesome. No, I really enjoyed it. There were days when it rained and the ground would stay dry because it was so warm. Water would evaporate and turn into steam as soon as it hit the floor. As long as you remember to bang your shoes out for scorpions and spiders and never stick your hand in a mailbox without sticking a stick in it first, absolutely fine. Lovely place to live. Got stung by jellyfish, bit by bull ants.
You've been stung by a jellyfish?
Yes, and I will never swim in the ocean again.
So did they have to do the whole, urinating on it to get the numbness going on?
Yeah, that was my brother's job.
So where did your affinity for pro wrestling start?
I was 5 years old. We were just about to move back to England, and we were all packing the house, and my dad just dumped me in front of the TV and turned the telly on, and it was channel 10 Pacific, and it was Sting versus Ric Flair, Clash of the Champions 88, 45-minute walk and brawl. And from the moment I saw Sting, couldn't take my eyes off the screen. Didn't really care much for Ric Flair, but Sting became my guy. He's the solid reason that I'm a wrestling fan. As soon as I saw one of his matches, I never stopped pestering my dad. I was like, Dad, who's this? I need to see more of this. And from that point on, even when we got back to England, because WCW used to be on Channel 4 at about 3 o'clock in the morning over here, and my dad would record it for me every single week. And all I cared about was Sting back then. I remember, and obviously I was a kid, so I was a mark. I didn't know it was fake. I thought it was amazing that these people were physically capable of surviving what they were doing, and it just... Wrestling's the ultimate bloke soap.
You're not wrong there.
It's the ultimate bloke soap, and I adore it completely. It's the best storytelling in the world. I'm terrible at sports. I am not built for sports. I'm built for comfort, not for speed. And so I never really got into football or rugby or anything like that when I was young. I played a bit of basketball, but I was absolutely terrible at it. And then for medical reasons, I couldn't continue playing sports anyway. So wrestling became my outlet. Because you can wrestle without hurting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
as long as you know what you're doing. And so I did a bit of it when I got trained a little bit when I was younger because I had a crazy dream about becoming a wrestler, but then for medical reasons I wasn't able to follow that through. But I don't know, like, I'm going off on a tangent there, but no, like I say, Flair versus Sting, 88 Clash of Champions. I'll never forget the match. It's not my favourite match of all time, but it's so good. Like that, if you want to do a Broadway in wrestling, I say show any two guys that tape, and that's how you do a Broadway in wrestling.
So if that's not your favorite match, would that be your favorite Sting match?
No,
Okay.
my favorite Sting match is from Nitro on a date I cannot remember in 1999. He wrestles Diamond Dallas Page in the opening match and wins the world title, and he then loses it in 1 hour.
Gotta love late 90s WCW
Yeah.
booking.
It's amazing, but it's probably DDP's best match in WCW, and it's my favourite Sting match because he'd just come back from injury and was wrestling like he had a point to prove again. And it's really something to watch, especially because DDP was always such a hard worker, especially considering he came into the business late.
Mm-hmm.
And to watch a guy like Page get to work with Sting, who, because they were both baby faces for most of their careers, didn't really cross paths that often. Now Page was the heel. It was an interesting dynamic, and it worked really well. And I feel like they had super high chemistry. So the match was just really. It was just a classic TV match, and it was pay-per-view worthy, and you didn't really get that back then.
Now, going into a little bit, you said that you trained a little bit. Let's go into that a little bit. How long did you train for pro wrestling?
2 years.
Okay, so you didn't just dip your foot in there. You were in there for a minute.
No, I was 8 when I started, because you can do that over here you could in the 90s anyway. I was 8 when I started because I already had been doing judo for a year and a half, and I really liked martial arts. But 2 years into my training, my disease kicked in, and I had to stop.
Now,
Which
do
was
you
a
want to go
shame.
into that disease a little bit?
Oh, it's fine. The long and short of it is I've got an eye disease called keratoconus, which rots your cornea off, splits your eye open, and turns it inside out to the shape of a deformed ice cream cone.
Good lord.
That happened to me on my 9th birthday to my left eye, and happened to me just after my 10th birthday to my right eye. And in the short version is I was blind until I was 6, until 1996.
Good
and then I
God.
got my left eye back, and then in 2000 I got my right eye back. They're donated by 2 wonderful people, and now I can see.
That is...
But obviously, I was the 5th person in England at least to be recorded with keratoconus. I'm on like 5 episodes of Children's Hospital. But I was in surgery for all of them, so I don't remember any of it. I don't remember any of it. I just got home. Mum was like, "You're on TV." And we went from there. But no, obviously because I couldn't see, I couldn't continue training, and that all just went out the window. And then after I had the surgery, I couldn't risk taking any physical bumps because the stitches would rip and things would move out of place, and then the surgery would be ruined. So I kind of gave up on the physical side of wrestling at that point, and I started trying to become a writer, because I feel like the most enjoyable part of pro wrestling is the creative process. I love the concept of how guys, not so the way in which they produce the matches, but how you get from A to B. Sorry, how you get from A to C.
Mm-hmm.
But B is the wrestling match. It's just, I don't know, there's something about telling stories that I've always loved. The ability to tell a great story and to really capture somebody and keep that attention, even if it's just for a little tiny second where they don't know if what they're seeing is supposed to happen or not, that's genius. And to be able to do that for people on a weekly basis would just be, it'd be the most amazing thing in the world. Taking people on a journey every week helping them escape the mundaneness of real life. And I mean, we all watch wrestling to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me happy. That's the primary reason I watch wrestling. I like watching good guys versus bad guys, punks versus jerks. This whole mix of culture and personality and just fantastic people who work their asses off and literally put their lives on the line to entertain us. People get injured all the time in pro wrestling.
In horrible ways.
And people still call it fake.
I was about to say, our boy Rick Boogs at WrestleMania literally tore his quad and separated his damn patella. That is, you cannot look at that. Two guys up on his shoulders.
It's horrible, and people still call it fake. I understand why they call it fake, because it's predetermined, it's not a real sport. But it hurts. And I've always really appreciated how much those men and women are willing to do just to entertain idiots like me. Because, I don't know, pro wrestling is it's special. It's something that never goes away. It doesn't have seasons. It doesn't have breaks. It's there all the time. And it sounds sad and strange, but pro wrestling's always been there for me. Didn't matter what part of my life I was going through, whether it was my eyes, because when I was a kid and I couldn't see, it was really hard to obviously enjoy pro wrestling because commentary wasn't that great back then. But my brother introduced me when I couldn't see to ECW.
And the commentary
and
there.
Joey Styles. Yeah, Joey Styles literally walked you through a match, move by move by move by move. Everything that happened in that ring, he verbalized. So thanks to Joey Styles and my brother, I was able to continue enjoying pro wrestling for those years when I couldn't see. So I didn't feel like I missed a whole step.
That's absolutely amazing to hear. Like, that's actually such a good story.
Thanks. It's always been there for me. And right now, doing what we're doing here, I feel it's my chance at least to try and give something back to pro wrestling.
That's all we're here for.
Yeah, it's given so much to me that I feel like I owe it one.
Now, since you were talking about you loving the storylines and the stories of wrestling so much, we actually had a question come in from Chris LaBelle, one of our Wrestlebuddies over on Twitter, and he asked, "What is your favorite wrestling storyline?"
Crow Sting going after Hogan.
The entire, just like the build-up of...
The whole 18 months. From Sting's turning his back on the hard cam interview, all the way through his first rappelling from the rafters, from sitting up there with vultures looking like a member of Kiss before he got the crow Sting, before he got the crow face paint right. Just, that story when I was younger was it for me. Because I just got my eye back in 1996. So I just started watching wrestling again, properly. And to see my favourite wrestler, no longer blonde, no longer flat top haircut, no colourful face paint, all in black and white, dressed like the guy from my favourite movie at the time, was just absolutely... it was just, when I was a kid, it couldn't get any better. And I absolutely hate Hulk Hogan. I hated Hulk Hogan when I was a kid because my dad, when I was very young, explained to me it's not real. So because he was a huge fan of World of Sport growing up.
Okay.
As was my granddad. So I watched a lot of World of Sport as well. And so they both explained to me how wrestling worked by the time I was about 7. So I already knew it was. And to me, Hogan made it look fake. And that was always my problem with him. It's like, I don't believe Ric Flair's the greatest wrestler of all time. And I'll challenge anyone who says he is, because he's not. He's one of the greatest, but Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels were both better than him.
I'm not going to argue with you there, brother.
They were both better than him. But Ric Flair at least made it look real. Whether it was because the way he sold moves, the way he executed everything made it feel real. And that was why Flair was always good, because that's what wrestling is supposed to do. It's supposed to simulate violence. That's why I like Bryan Danielson so much. But that's a different story. But no, to get back to the point, I hate Hogan, so having my guy in Sting finally getting the recognition I thought he deserved all along, and being pushed as the main dude, not just fighting one villain in Hulk Hogan, but weekly decimating the entire NWO. After months and months and months of all the baby faces getting squashed week after week after week
consistently.
After week. It was just such a good period. And I'm just going to put my phone on silent. It was such a good period in wrestling. And that storyline for me encapsulates the Attitude Era. And for me, it encapsulates WCW's rise to the top. Because they really got to the top of the business during that storyline with Sting. Then Starrcade happened and everything went downhill from there.
So, Russ just asked, since we were talking about your favorite storyline being from WCW, what would you say your favorite WWE storyline ever would be? That question
easy.
Coming from Russ.
Easy. Cactus Jack. Well, Mick Foley versus Triple H from 2000.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's easily my favorite WWE match is Mick Foley versus Triple H Street Fight at the Royal Rumble in 2000.
I just watched that yesterday, and to this day, still watching that, you cannot not cringe when Foley takes that pedigree onto those thumbtacks.
Oh no! And the hole in Triple H's leg
from the slat. Insane.
It's so good. That pay-per-view is, with the exception of the stupid bikini bit in the middle, is really good from top to bottom. I love Royal Rumble 2000. The Rumble matches come see, come saw, because the Big Show wins, even though The Rock wins, which is confusing.
In almost 22 years, we still don't talk about it.
No, it's not one of them. But Mick Foley versus Cactus Jack, the emotion that Mick presented during that story of when he swapped from Mankind, shedded the comedy, and rebirthed as Cactus Jack, I was so excited because I knew him for Cactus Jack from WCW and ECW. So to see him return again, and little fact, that was the first live pay-per-view we got for free on Channel 4.
Hell yeah.
Over here. And it was one of the last live pay-per-views we got for free because Mae Young got her tits out. And Channel 4 kicked, yeah.
So that actually was live.
Yes.
So did they not have a chance to blur it out?
No. No, not at all. It was pretty horrendous. I mean, it was obviously prosthetic, but it was still pretty horrendous. But Channel 4 went up in arms about the content because that's not what they paid for. And so we ended up getting about 6 more pay-per-views because they'd signed a deal with them, and then after that it stopped and we just got Sunday Night Heat. And that was about it. But that pay-per-view got me back into WWE because I never really watched WWEF after I was a kid. Like during the Bret Hart era, that was my WWF, or the Hogan era, unfortunately, the Hogan era. And I don't know what's the best way to put it. I kind of had to stop on WWE for years because it just really fell off. It jumped the shark for a long time for me, and it felt too cartoony, and there wasn't enough wrestling in the show. Like the matches were all 5 minutes long and everything had a DQ or a screwy finish. Not that it's changed that much today, but that pay-per-view and that storyline made me turn around and go, oh, they're doing something different here. It has changed. It's not just goofy sex sells anymore. They've moved on. They've gone back to actual storytelling with emotional consequences. And that fascinated me again. And I routinely then went and bought 3 years worth of Smackdown and Raw tapes off a friend of mine.
Routinely, so like every time that he would record something, you'd be like, hey, here's a couple bucks.
Yeah. And I think I bought 2,564 tapes off him. Yeah. And I covered the whole Attitude Era. I did.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was very single, so I had nothing else to do besides work. So it was go to work, go home, watch wrestling, get up, watch wrestling, go to work, come home, watch wrestling, go to work. And ever since then, it's routinely been my life. Like tomorrow, Tuesday, I'm watching the last two shows from WrestleMania weekend from the Collective, which are because and then.
What are the two shows that you still have left?
I cannot remember. It's 2G. I think I haven't watched Effie's Big Gay Brunch.
Because I've missed that one, and I missed night 2 of Janela's Spring Break.
Oh no, that's fantastic. The Cluster F Battle Royal is hilarious.
I saw that amazing moment with Denise and Sean Ross Sapp. I absolutely loved that.
That's not even the best bit in the match. The Invisible Man is standout MVP. Other than Joey Janela, who was in that match for a very long time.
As he should be.
Well, at one point he just gets stoned from Grim Reaper and then goes and grabs a bag of Cheetos from the back and walks around the arena offering people Cheetos for like 10 minutes.
I need to watch this fucking match.
It's amazing. Did you watch Bloodsport?
Bloodsport was one of my favorite events from the entire weekend. The match with Ninja Mac and Yoya was insane.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Mental.
But my favourite match from the entire show was Moxley versus Biff Busick.
That's a match if you want two dudes just beating the hell out of each other.
My favourite type of wrestling is two dudes beating the holy living hell out of each other. And that match is exactly what I like from big beefy boys slapping beef.
The part where Mox is just biting the cut open eyebrow of Busick was just...
And then spitting the blood all over the canvas just to prove a point.
Oh, it's amazing.
Even John Hennigan had a fantastic match.
Oh, yeah, him and Simon... what's he go by now? Simon Grimm?
Yeah.
Yeah, that match was phenomenal.
Yeah, that was really good. Also, I watched... What I've done, I just watched Multiverse of Matches the other day from Impact.
And they had some really good matches, but as a whole, it was okay.
It was wishy-washy. Bandido's match with, who was it? Blake Christian was fantastic. I really enjoyed the Good Housekeeping match, because that's what it was. Between Johnny and Tyre, that was hilarious.
I loved that.
Yeah, and I thoroughly enjoyed the tag between the Aldises versus the Cardonas. Because that was just some good old school NWA mixed tag team action, and thoroughly enjoyed it. But no, I've got 2 GCW shows left to watch: For the Culture and Effie's Big Gay Brunch.
I heard For the Culture was really good. There was some really good matches on that card.
My friend Matt's already watched it. He said it's a really good show. And I still need to watch Planet Death as well.
Oh, I missed that one too. I need to see that one too.
Yeah.
I love me good death matches, and apparently there were some really good ones on there.
I draw the line at knives and bladed weapons in death matches, but light tubes and stuff I'm fine with. If they're willing to do it, then... So, how do you feel about ICW No Holds Barred, where they're in that, like the octagon? Have you seen that yet? No Holds Barred? No.
Go and give it a watch. I think it's ICW No Holds Barred.
Okay.
They literally have death matches inside of an octagon.
Okay.
And it is mental. One of the craziest death matches I've seen happened in there.
I will give that a look, and I will tell my friend Matt. He'll probably be more interested than I am. He loves his deathmatch wrestling. He absolutely loves his deathmatch wrestling.
We have Russ again in the comments asking, what did you do with all the tapes after the WWE Network started?
Oh, I gave them to a neighbour.
Just all of them?
Yeah.
Hey, Andy.
My neighbour had kids. The kids liked professional wrestling, but they didn't have Sky. So I just said, "Doof, here you go." It was about 42 big, massive cardboard boxes.
Good lord, I was just about to ask how many tapes you gave over, but
The only ones I
you
didn't
have
give
boxes.
yeah, the only ones I didn't give away were the ECW pay-per-views. But unfortunately, my house got robbed and they got stolen.
Good God, you've been robbed too?
Yeah. Oh, I've been broken into. Let's see, I've moved house 19 times. And I've been broken into 11 times?
You're fucking kidding me.
No. I have the worst luck, my friend. I have the worst luck. Fortunately, both times, well, the last 2 times I got robbed, one of them, the criminal got stuck in the window on the way out, which was kind of hilarious, because we got home and there was a dude, we were all really drunk, and there was a guy just hanging out the window on the 2nd floor, and it was a little window, like, you know, just a bathroom window.
Yeah.
That we'd left open, and we got back, and my mate was like, "What's that?" Looked up and was like, "What the fuck is there a guy? Pardon my language. Why the f is there a guy hanging out of my window?" And so we rang the police like 20 minutes later.
Wouldn't you just go out the front door?
Yeah. No, he got stuck in a window. Didn't get away with anything either. So I don't understand what his plan was.
What?
But criminals are idiots.
It's very rare when you get a smart criminal in the world. There are no real supervillains.
And if they exist, we don't know who they are because they're really good at it.
So going through more of the questions from the fans, this one actually comes from fellow Wrestlebuddy. Jimmy asks, who is the cutest of all the Wrestlebuddies?
Well, me, obviously. Look at this jawline. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I've got to say it's Scouse Andy.
It's Andy.
Yeah,
Andy,
it's
you're
Andy.
in the chat. Nick has
It's
officially dubbed you the prettiest of the Wrestlebuddies.
It's Andy. Especially after he's shaved, he's got a magnificent jawline. He's got military cat hair. The man, he's phenomenally handsome and deserves accolade for that.
Andy in the comments is just yes. Russ, Andy is smoking hot. Wow, we're getting some Andy love in the chat right now. Chris has asked again, what is your favorite match type?
Match type.
The type. We were talking about deathmatch wrestling and pure wrestling, like World Sport Wrestling, a little bit ago.
I don't have a specific match type, but I like a certain style.
Okay. Elaborate.
Violence. When I was younger, I was massively into flippy dippy doodah boys. Then I got older and I learned that wrestlers can't do that long time. And basically anyone that does is kidding themselves because your body cannot flip forever. If people get older, you need to slow down. So for me, growing up watching guys like Bret Hart, Chris Benoit, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, Rollerball Rocco.
The legit, like, shooters of the time.
Like, it's guys that can just flat out go and at the same time beat your face in if they wanted to. That's why I'm a big fan of what they're doing with Moxley and Danielson and AEW. I think it's a phenomenal idea. I also think Samoa Joe needs to join that group. But that's the difference.
No, I need Joe going against that group. I need Regal and Joe yelling at each other again.
That would be pretty entertaining. Bring me Nakamura! Yeah, that was amazing. No, but my favourite match type is probably a submission match.
Now,
like if I had to pick one,
I will actually go and I will fight with you on that one because no one has done a very good submission match in a very long time.
No one has done a good submission match in a very long time.
And I would love it.
If you go back to my favourite submission match, which is Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit from...
the Iron Man submission match?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That is a chess match. That is a violent chess game because they both beat the holy hell out of each other.
Oh, Angle's chest was in another
Yeah,
Angle's
it
chest was in another category of raw
it was a
beef.
different spectrum of color. Uh, 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 wrestling. My dad calls wrestling violent dancing. If that makes sense.
It 100% does.
You have to learn the steps and then repeat the steps on a weekly basis. And being able to repeat those steps while at the same time laying your shit in, and while the other guy's laying it in at the same time, that's an art form. Because if you're just flipping about, it's a gymnastics routine. But if you're really punching a guy in the face, it's really hard to punch a guy in the face and not actually punch him in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Andy did that fantastic interview with the Pope the other week, where the Pope was talking about going home and punching light bulbs until he got to the point where he could throw a punch and make it look good and barely touch the guy. That's art. That is a skill that not many people have. Right? Like, not a lot of many people have. And there's just something about super aggressive, technical submission style wrestling that really appeals to me. That's why I'm a massive fan of Minoru Suzuki.
I was just about to ask how you feel about Suzuki or Zack Sabre Jr.
I love Zack Sabre Jr. I've met Zack twice at WCPW shows. Zack is a really, really nice guy. Will Ospreay is a prick. Right? He never wants to talk. I mean, I understand he must be knackered after his matches, but he won't talk to the fans, and he's a bit of a douche. Whereas Zack Sabre Jr., nicest guy in the world. And probably the best technical wrestler on the planet.
Oh, no, there's no argument there. I genuinely think Zack Sabre Jr. is the best technical wrestler in the world.
If he doesn't win the New Japan title from Okada, and then we don't get Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. at next year's Wrestle Kingdom, I am going to be very disappointed.
Yeah.
Like,
we need that match. We need that match.
Yeah, it needs to happen.
And make it a submission match while you're fucking at it.
Yes. Yes. Make it an Iron Man submission match, even if it's only 30 minutes long. Those two will have an absolute artwork. The painting they could create would be unbelievable.
Mona Lisa-esque, bro. It would just be masterpiece. So we actually have 2 questions from our friend Zane. His first question is, who is your favorite wrestler, and why is it Eddie Kingston?
Right, Zane. Andy told me to be nice to you. But I'm not going to be nice to you because I know what the other question is.
And the other question, how are you so old?
Because, Zane, I am not a baby like you. I was not born in the millennium. I am not a millennial. Well, actually, I was born in 1983, so technically I'm young enough to be a millennial. But the answer... Thank you, Alex. Now, I'm going to say something. Eddie Kingston... It's a really good promo. Because Eddie Kingston doesn't understand that wrestling's a work. Right? Eddie Kingston is also a terrible wrestler. Right? He can tell a story, but he cannot wrestle. He's not like Kevin Owens, where Kevin Owens is a husky guy that can flat out go. Eddie Kingston is a husky guy that can barely walk. Eddie Kingston is a good entertainer. He will never be my favourite wrestler, Zane. Not in a million years. He can cut a good promo, but he realistically cuts the same promo every time he cuts a promo. Which is, why are you treating the business why it's fake? I will kick your ass.
Very similar along the lines of the Thunder Rosa promos.
Oh, no, that's literally Thunder Rosa's only promo. I am Thunder Rosa, I'm going to kick your ass. Now I'll do the rest of the promo in Spanish. Which I'm fine with. I like the fact that we get more multilingual wrestlers these days. But just cut the whole damn promo in Spanish and give us subtitles. Because it's more believable that way anyway. I don't understand the need in the modern world for forcing professional wrestlers to cut promos in English. When it's
they should have done that with Asuka way back.
Yes.
The moment she debuted, just have subtitles whenever she's talking.
Yeah, it's easy enough. It's a recorded TV show. Especially for like AEW, because AEW tape all that, except Dynamite's live, but Rampage is taped every week. You can do it on Rampage easily.
Easy. All right. Well, speaking of promos, and maybe people who could use a better talker, Russ asks, "Who is your favorite wrestling manager?"
Let me think about that one. Bobby the Brain Heenan.
That's a very good shout.
Yeah, it was a toss-up between Bobby and Paul Heyman, but it's Bobby. Managers don't mean now what they meant back in the 80s. Something Zayn wouldn't understand because he wasn't even a glint in his daddy's eye. Managers meant something back in the 80s because everybody was in a manager's stable. So everybody had a reason to be fighting everybody else. Even if the reason was, I'm managed by this guy, you're managed by this guy, and they don't like each other. Managers gave the entire roster purpose, and I think that's something that's solely missing in modern wrestling. It's another reason I'm an AEW fan. Nearly everybody's in a group. If everybody's in a faction, same with New Japan, everybody's in a faction.
And they have been for years.
Yeah. All you need is people being in different factions, and there's a permanent reason for people to be fighting, because it is faction warfare all the time. And I love that. It's an old way of booking, but it's a good way of booking. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it's something that the art of the manager's been lost. I think it's one of the reasons Paul Heyman is so beloved in the modern day, is because Paul has that old school feel of an old school manager, where he is just as important to the storyline of the wrestler that he is representing as the wrestler themselves, but does his best to make sure he doesn't overshadow that wrestler. That doesn't happen enough. I mean,
no.
It just doesn't happen enough. And then there's the often thing where they put guys with managers that don't need managers. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, AEW is just as guilty of it as anybody else. For some reason, Nyla Rose is with Vicky Guerrero.
Nyla Rose don't need someone to talk for her. She's a great promo.
She just doesn't need help in any way, shape, or form. Vicky should be with somebody else like Red Velvet or Ty Conti. Right, because
her and Ty would probably be good.
Well, Ty Conti is grossly miscast as a babyface, as is her boyfriend Sammy Guevara. They have such cool kid vibes, like, you know what I mean? They were at the cool kid table in school, right? They were not ever shunned or ostracized or bullied or anything like that. Or if they were, it doesn't show. They are grossly miscast as babyfaces. They need to be presented as heels. Like, it'd make a hell of a lot more sense.
Oh yeah, especially if they're gonna keep doing the damn note card thing too,
which are getting longer every week.
Hey, they gotta fill time somehow, right?
I got it when they first did it because it was the picture-in-picture stuff.
But now they're just doing it to do it.
Yeah, and it gets longer all the time. It doesn't need to be 25 freaking note cards.
All right, so Andrew has asked, what is your favorite series of matches? As you know, mine is RVD versus Jerry Lynn.
Ah, that's my brother. By the way, my favourite series of matches is a modern series of matches, and it is Kazuchika Okada versus Kenny Omega. Because
the matches that got me into New Japan.
I've been watching New Japan since 2012.
Okay.
Like I used to watch it in the mid-2000s when I could get hold of it, but I primarily got All Japan on the TV package that I had. And All Japan's very different to New Japan.
Oh, yeah.
It's very different. Much slower, much more grindy pace, but still very good. But Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada is, in my opinion, the blueprint for the modern super match. Like,
hard to argue.
From the storyline they told, the selling, the in-match story, the work that they did about the fact that One of the matches, Okada lets go of Kenny Omega's wrist for about 3 minutes of the entire match. The rest of the match is Okada has wrist control and Kenny is trying to fight out of it. And it doesn't matter what he does, Okada maintains wrist control. That's hard to do. Like, really hard to do. And they do it so well. Like, the Broadway that they had at Wrestle Kingdom is probably the best Broadway I've ever seen. Like, that moment where he goes to the Rainmaker and Kenny just collapses to his knees. And his arm misses the top of his head by this much. That is how you sell a spot. Like,
that's how you sell an entire match. They'd been going for, I think, about 30 minutes at that point.
Yeah.
30, 40 minutes at that point.
I have never seen two men work so hard for our entertainment. Like, I have never seen people... Kenny Omega wrestles a frenetic style, if you understand what I mean. It's a style that nobody can keep up forever, but he's managed to adjust it now to a more mainstream frenetic way of wrestling, and he's not trying to kill himself every single week. But Kazuchika Okada is the glue that held those matches together. Like, the certain guys have chemistry with certain other guys, and I believe that nobody has chemistry with Kenny Omega like Kazuchika Okada, and vice versa. Certain wrestlers, when they wrestle each other, make magic. Angle and Benoit is another example I'd like to use. Guerrero and Malenko.
That's a great one that doesn't get enough respect either.
That's my favourite ECW feud of all time. And my favourite ECW match of all time is Eddie Guerrero versus Dean Malenko, 2 out of 3 falls.
The farewell.
The farewell match where they left the company. That is phenomenal stuff. It is unbelievably amazing.
And on a show that, you know, that show focused heavily on the violence that night, and then the main event was...
There was a Taipei death match between Axel and Ian Rotten that night.
Yep.
And if you don't know what that is, folks, a Taipei death match is you put bandages on your hands, and you dip your hands in resin, then you dip your hands in broken glass, and you slash each other up.
You basically try to kill each other until the other person says, I stop.
Yeah, or until they lose enough blood that they pass out.
And Axel and Ian beat the hell out of each other. Brothers, mind you.
Yes, brothers. Not from Newcastle as they were advertised, but still brothers. But I think you've got to be related to do that to each other and be willing to allow somebody to get glass and just go... Or the one case across Axel's stomach, which was disgusting.
Gotta love old ECW.
Oh, I do. It's phenomenal stuff.
Moving a bit away from the violence, Jimmy has asked in the chat, what is your dream submission match? Put 2 people together.
Oh, Zack Sabre Jr. and Jonathan Gresham.
Oh, they had to have had one match in progress, didn't they?
Yes.
I was about to say, I could have swore I saw them wrestle.
It wasn't a submission match.
No.
It wasn't a submission match, but the Octopus versus the Wizard is... Yes, please.
It's so good.
Like, I've seen Jonathan Gresham live about 7 times now, and it amazes me that a man who is that short in stature is capable of doing the things that he is capable of doing, because he stretches people that are twice his height, and
in ways they shouldn't move.
Yeah, and people that are twice his weight, and his technique is flawless, and Zack's technique is flawless. To see those two exchange in a real chess game of exchanging hold for release, for reversal, for maneuver, for reversal, for maneuver, for mat exchanges. Oh yes, please. That match would literally probably break my brain.
I was about to say, the synapses would be firing. That match would be just lovely to watch. Especially now, where both men have so far come so far ahead in both of their craft. I think both men could be like your prototype for the modern technical wrestler. Like you have Bryan Danielson, but then you've got Gresham and Sabre, who are on, in my opinion, another level.
Well, Bryan isn't... I don't refer to Bryan as a technical wrestler. I always refer to Bryan as a catch-as-catch-can wrestler.
Okay.
Because, like, I watched a fair bit of Bryan Danielson from Ring of Honor in the early 2000s. But honestly, I'm more familiar with his WWE work than I was with his Ring of Honor work. Until recently when I started going back and watching more of it. But he's there's a lot of Bret Hart in Bryan Danielson, but there's a lot of Shawn Michaels in Bryan Danielson. And it's basically if Bret and Shawn had a baby, Bryan.
Yeah.
That's the result. And it's this phenomenal catch-as-catch-can pro wrestling style where he understands the mechanics of a match to the in-depth point of he can tell if a guy needs him to make a certain facial expression for the camera to catch or for the audience to catch, just to set off an emotional trigger where the audience will then react. Bryan is... They used to call Triple H the cerebral assassin. Bryan Danielson is the most cerebral wrestler in modern wrestling. He truly understands what it is to be a professional wrestler in 2022. It comes back to storytelling yet again. It always does with me. It's his ability to tell a story in the ring. There is nobody better than Bryan at this point in professional wrestling. Whether he's trying to tell a story of violence, whether he's trying to tell a story of depression or pain, he gets his mental state across in the match. That is hard. It's also necessary to connect. You need to be able to project who you are to the audience. And Bryan does that in very simple, subtle ways. And that amazes me. Because Jake Roberts is another guy that really for me anyway, was one of the first guys that got it. Jake was the best promo of his era, and I'll fight anybody.
Without a fucking shadow of a doubt.
That argues that. And what people need to realise, he did most of those promos while off his face. And you'd have never known.
Oh, yeah.
The man was that good when he was hammered. Imagine how good he would have been when he was sober. And I've always said that.
And that's actually real sad to think about, too.
Yeah. But I love Jake Roberts, so I don't think of the sad parts. The man is a legend, and he always will be.
And for the people, if you haven't listened to Chris Van Vliet's personal interview with Jake Roberts, it is one of the most to-the-heart interviews I've seen with a wrestler from that era.
Oh, it's heart-wrenching stuff, it really is. But Chris is a fantastic interviewer.
Always has
He's
been,
also
and always
probably
will be.
the most handsome man in wrestling journalism.
Yeah, there's no arguing that either.
It's really depressing that somebody is that good looking and that good at his job at the same time. It just doesn't seem fair.
All right, so we're going to take a couple more questions from the fans before we do our sign-off. Russ has asked, who is your favorite wrestling commentator?
Oh, Joey Styles.
I was about to say, that's hard to argue. Man literally walked you through wrestling when you couldn't see.
If it wasn't for Joey Styles, I'd have probably lost. And I challenge any modern commentator to do a 3-hour pay-per-view on their own.
Oh, yeah.
With no color guy. Just the play-by-play. No, Joey Styles, Gordon Soley. The only guys that have ever done that.
And one hell of a dude, too, standing up to JBL as well.
Yeah, knocked him out. It was fantastic. Don't mess with little Italian man.
Don't fuck with Joey Styles.
No. No, but flipping Joey, as you said, he got me through a very difficult point in my life. And for me, these days, I have mental health issues. I'm schizophrenic. So wrestling helps keep me grounded. And modern commentary, unfortunately, does not hit the same way it did when I was younger. Because... Oh, 1 second, my battery's running low.
Oh, no worries.
Sorry about that. Laptop's
Hey,
about
no
to die.
worries.
Wrestling keeps me grounded, and commentary's always been a big part of that. It's because I listen first and I look second, if that makes sense.
100%.
just how I am. Um, I like AEW because I like Excalibur, and I love Tony Schiavone. Like, the voice of my childhood is Joey Styles and Tony Schiavone.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I grew up listening to. So having them there is great. JR needs to retire. I love the guy, but he needs to retire because he's not good anymore.
In my opinion, he's getting to Jerry Lawler in 2010s.
That's a very good comparison, unfortunately. Like, he keeps going on about whenever the girls are wrestling, he keeps going on about how they look.
Yeah,
It's
and it's very noticeable.
Yeah, it's very noticeable, and it's not good for the product. But modern commentary is just a bit lackluster. Like, Corey Graves is a good colour guy. I think Michael Cole is underrated because Michael Cole is not allowed to commentate.
Mm-hmm. And point being, the United Kingdom Championship Tournament.
Exactly. Right? You listen to that night and he was off the rails good. Like, Michael Cole is great when he's allowed to be, but he's not allowed to be. So it's really hard to listen to him plug tagline after tagline after tagline after buzzword every week on SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
I like Pat McAfee because Pat McAfee doesn't seem to give one. He seems to be able to do and say pretty much whatever he wants, so that entertains me. But there isn't a commentator today that touches Joey Styles for me, and there never will be. That man is on an island unto himself, in my opinion, and Gordon Soley is the boat keeper who drove him to that island.
All right. Now, we've got about 8 minutes left.
Okay.
It's been an amazing interview with you, Nick.
Thank you.
And this is something that I'm going to end each one of these interviews off with. I'm going to ask you, personally, why do you love pro wrestling?
It's the eternal mistress. It's the dream I always had. It's the love I always had. It helped me through so many bad times in my life. Like, I can safely say if it wasn't for pro wrestling, I wouldn't be here. Like, I've been on some really low points over the years, and wrestling helped pull me out of those points. And it always did it at the right time and when I needed it to. When my whole life was falling apart, wrestling was there. When I was splitting up with my ex-girlfriend, wrestling was there. When I got my house robbed, wrestling was there. Whatever shit has gone on in my life that's tried to drag me down or push me down or do them, wrestling's always been there through that. To cheer me up and pull me back up and put me back on the position of saying, you know what? Doesn't matter. Life goes on.
Mm-hmm.
The show must go on. And wrestling's a show that never stops. I can't think of what else to put it, as in, it's my mistress. It's the thing I love. And I will probably never stop watching it until the day I die. I watch about 16 hours of wrestling every week. And I love every single minute of it.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. It's given me so much. All I want to do is enjoy wrestling, talk about wrestling, promote wrestling, get people who don't know how good wrestling can be into wrestling. It's the ultimate sport because it's for everybody. It's all inclusive. There are no boundaries in professional wrestling. It's just down to what people are physically and mentally capable of doing. It's this fantastic show, the ultimate circus, the greatest bloke soap in the world. I can't praise pro wrestling enough for what it's done for me. Like, I love it. That's it.
That is an amazing This has been an amazing interview, Nick. Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
No, dude, you're more than welcome. It's I love to talk, and I'd like to get to know people a bit better. Like, you've always seemed cool, but we never really got a chance to talk before.
Hmm.
We'll have to do this the other way around one day.
Hey, no worries. I'm looking forward to it. And before we go, Nick, give everybody in our comment section your top 3 favorite wrestling shows.
Ever?
Yeah, ever.
In no particular order, Royal Rumble 2000, ECW Heatwave 98,
Oh yeah.
and WCW Halloween Havoc 97.
All right. Well, this has been, like I said several times already, an amazing interview. Thank you for agreeing with me, Chris. I want to thank absolutely everybody who was with us in the comments. Thank you for giving questions. Thank you to everybody who was on Twitter and sent in questions for Nick. And
Yes, thanks, guys.
I cannot say thank you enough. Nick, thank you for joining me. I love you, brother. You
Love you
have
too,
yourself
man.
a great day. And to our fans, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay hydrated. Bye.